Hello, everybody. Welcome to Culture Chronversations. I'm here with two wonderful people, some of my favorite people at the Chronicle. And I do say that every episode, but I truly mean it this time. These two people are mentors, innovators, leaders, and they're very, very, very smart. And we're going to get into some smart things on this episode because we're talking about books. But to start off the episode, I would love if you two could introduce yourself very, very briefly. Paige, let's go ahead and start with you.
Great. Hey, everyone. My name is Paige Barnes, and I am the audience engagement editor for the Columbia Chronicle.
And I'm Brooklyn Kyoso, and I'm the copy chief at the Columbia Chronicle.
So Paige and Brooklyn are two heavy hitters, two intimidating people, I would say. I would say, Brooklyn, I think you're a little bit more intimidating than Paige. Paige was very, very nice when I walked in the Chronicle office. Brooklyn, the first time I saw you, I was horrified. You walk with an air of, you're very erudite, or you have an erudite atmosphere. I don't know if you're actually that smart. I think you are, but maybe some people won't. We'll get into it. But regardless, we are talking literature today. We're talking about books. I've recently started reading again because break is coming up and I've actually had the time to read. I don't know about you guys, but typically I don't. I know Brooklyn probably, I mean, you read every day, right, Brooklyn?
I do. I try. I don't always succeed, but I try to finish like a book a week.
Yeah, that's absurd.
Oh, my goodness.
I could literally never, I don't know if I have the attention span for it. I don't even watch a movie a week, and that's my major. But you know what? I say, you know what? Talk to me, guys. What have you guys been reading? What's been interesting to you recently? Whoever wants to go can go. Yeah, what's up, Paige?
All right, I'll go. As I have shared, I am reading, or have read actually, because I thought we were talking about our favorite books that
Yeah.
we've been currently reading.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
So this is the first of the 3 series, and I have them right here, which this isn't a book promo or anything, but I am saying they are worth reading, especially because they're so easy to go through. And this one, the first of the series, is called Unearthly, and it's by Cynthia Hand. It's made for preteens, so as
Gotta love it.
It's my like teen angst, I guess, coming out. And the reason why I was attracted to it, one, is because the cover is amazing, which just sounds very superficial, of course. Look how like fun it.
Yeah, it's reflective, man. It's like a trading card.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, dude.
And covers really matter. They really get you to buy the book.
This is true. This is true.
And I guess ultimately I'll say it's just about this girl who's like a typical teenager trying to get through high school and stuff. And then she finds out that she is an angel, not like niceness angel, but like an actual angel, and just goes through high school trying to figure out that. And then she meets some other angels who are just regular teenagers too. I don't know if there are any adult angels, but then there's dark angels and stuff. And like I said, it sounds very out there because it is out there, but it's so easy to read, and the font is big enough for me too. So
you have trouble with small font?
Indeed I do. I got really bad sightseeing.
Yeah,
so it's big enough.
Yeah. Hey, if it works for you, it works for me. Paige, I feel like there's a little bit of a personal connection you have to this book. I feel like you're talking about your own life, finding out you're an angel in high school. I feel like that suits you.
Is that a really bad like pickup line?
No, it's not a pickup line at all. It's not. I make what you make of it. Don't get Braxton to come over here, man. Braxton's gonna beat me up. No, Paige, I feel like you've had. I can just tell. I feel like there's something underneath the surface there. Are you typically into like teen fiction? Because I'm not at all. I've always hated it.
I wouldn't say I'm an avid teen fiction person, but I do enjoy a good teen fiction novel here and there, just because I think the drama that happens in there makes me feel better about my life and thinking, oh goodness, there are students, young people out there that are freaking out about high school, which it is a very difficult time in life.
True. It's true.
But it makes my life easier now. I'm like, oh, I'm over that.
Yeah. Brooklyn, how about you? Are you a teen fiction person? You strike me as not being one.
I am not. I don't even know. Maybe I shouldn't be able to say that because I don't know if I've ever actually read a teen fiction book. I'm trying to like think back, and I don't like. I never read.
You missed your John Green phase.
Yeah.
I never read any John Green books. No.
Yo, that's dope. Good for you, man. That's rad. Yeah, no, I don't like teen fiction. I didn't have, well, I mean, I don't know. I think it was different for boys in high school or middle school or whatever. Because if you read John Green and you were a guy in high school, people would make fun of you. At least that's how it was in my high school.
That's a
But
harsh high school. See, I'm telling you, it's difficult to be a teenager in high school, and
it
that's
is.
why it's fun
Yeah.
reading.
I guess it's a nice escape, but I we'll talk a little bit more when we get around to me, but I'm also reading a fantasy book right now, Paige. So I feel you. It's nice to have sort of like an escape away from what's happening in real life right now. I appreciate that. Brooklyn, what have you been reading?
Recently I have my books too.
Hell yeah.
The Story of My Tea by Valeria Lucelli.
Yo, quick
And
180.
it's about this is a fiction book. I've been reading a lot more fiction lately, whereas I usually read more nonfiction.
Yeah.
But she basically writes about, it's a translated novel from Spanish to English, where she talks about an auctioneer in Mexico City that auctions off like historical and literary figures' teeth.
Okay. That's kind of
It's really
sweet.
experimental.
That's
and
cool.
It's really, really interesting. Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I finished this in like 2 days.
Oh my
And
God.
that's
How
pretty
long is
fast
it?
for me.
How long is it?
It is
Like what? Like 300 something? 300?
nope, 160.
Oh, okay. All right. That's not bad. I mean, that's still fast. It takes me much, much longer to read than that.
Does it have large print though?
Yeah. See, that's a real
Let's
question.
see.
Is it accessible?
No, it's actually really
Oof.
small print. Look how small
I
it is.
couldn't do it.
Oh, so that's basically 250. If it's tiny font, that's basically 250 pages right there. That's nothing, dude. Or no, that's a lot actually. That's not nothing. Brooklyn, does it take more for you? So Brooklyn, for people who don't know, is an MFA creative nonfiction student. Brooklyn, does it take more out of you to really, really get into a piece of text since you're so involved with, like the mechanics of it? Or do you feel like it's still pretty easy for you to get into whatever story?
I think lately, at least, because I have been personally experimenting with like really experimental writing.
Yeah,
it's like a very traditional text. It does take me a little bit more to get into it because I'm like,
Right.
I've kind of read this. It feels like I've read this before.
Right.
So, but if it's really experimental, like that's why I really enjoyed that because it was such like an interesting take, like auctioneering off like Marilyn Monroe's teeth.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm into weird stuff too. See, I think the problem that I run into, because I used to read pretty frequently after I got out of high school, and then once things started getting heavier with school, I slowed down during the school year, and then I kind of catch up during the summer, but I never know where to go to find like good books to read. Like I don't like if you were to ask me like, hey, where do I go to look for movies? I could give you a million options, but I have no idea when it comes to books, and so I always like have to take some time after reading something to find the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Goodreads.
I have a
Goodreads.
Sorry, I was gonna. Yeah, Goodreads is a good. Also, if you obviously you're not right now because COVID, but during normal times, I honestly will a lot of times go to like small bookstores. Like I go to Tilson Community Books, and I'll ask the person working what they recommend.
Yeah, that's my worst.
And I'll go based on that.
Yeah, that's my worst nightmare. I used to work at Barnes and Noble, and I would hate when people did that because I would feel like a fraud. Because I felt like a fraud because I didn't really have that much to suggest. I had a few.
Wait,
yeah.
You worked there? That's my like family store. Like my great grandparents.
Wait, seriously?
Started that.
Wait,
no,
you're part of the. Oh, dude, I thought you were part of the Barnes family.
Barnes Noble. Asked that. Yep.
Yo, that's crazy.
Oh, I don't know. He quit. It was a very heated dispute between the two grandparents. So I was
sure
like,
it was. Yeah, no, I would hate that because I would always work the register and people. Typically it was like old people, and old people would come up and say, "Hey, what should I? You got any recommendation?" Or like parents or whatever it is. And I'm like, "Listen, dude, I'm the last person you want to ask. Because A, I don't read that often, and B, the stuff I read isn't kosher. I feel like a lot of people aren't really into what I'm reading." But I have picked up like reading again recently. I got a little bit of the way through. I read a lot of biographies about directors, and so like film directors, and so I got this awesome one about John Cassavetes, who's really cool. But I've more so been into this. One of my favorite covers ever on a book. Look at that, Piranesi by Susanna Clark. Have you guys heard of this thing?
What's it about?
It's sweet, Brooklyn. I think you'll like this. It's a fantasy book. It's pretty short. It's like 250 pages. And it's kind of based on not the life, but like the character or the man, Piranesi, who was an old Italian illustrator and kind of an architect, but he used to document these prisons. And And then a lot of his illustrations, his really fine, like anatomical almost illustrations, were updated, and they added all this crazy stuff with like impossible geometry. So there are like bridges that would lead into walls and like, just things that couldn't structurally exist. And so Susanna Clark took this, this guy's work and turned it into this character who's trapped in, I think they call it the house, which is just like a maze. And there's these endless rooms filled with statues, and like water comes in and floods these halls. And basically there's like supposed to be something at the middle of this house. And so he catalogs all the different rooms, and it's kind of like a diary. It's like formatted like his diary. It's very, very interesting. It's kind of spooky, which I like.
That is so cool. I'm sold.
Sick.
You sold it to me. You should
No.
be the book's publisher and try to sell it, market
Listen,
it like
see,
that.
if I actually read more books when I worked at Barnes and Noble, I would have been promoted. I would have made so much more money. Or probably not, because my boss didn't really like me at all. That's a funny story. They hated me there. But
You're here now, though.
I
You're
know.
living your best life at the Chronicle.
You know what, Paige? You're right. Thank you for that. I did. Barnes and Noble was at the top of my resume when I applied for the Chronicle. Just throwing that out there, and it did. I'm sure it got me the job. But very, very good. I'm really, really into fantasy, and this book is like reading it now during COVID is very, very interesting, right? Because like this character's trapped in this house the entire time, and I don't know if it makes me feel better about the situation we're all in or worse, but it makes me feel something, and that's interesting. You know what I mean? I don't know. But Paige, you had an interesting thing that I think everybody listening or watching is going to relate to that we want to talk about today. Tell us a little bit about sort of what you wanted to discuss today.
Okay. I want to take my soapbox and talk about
you have
how...
It's your platform.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's yours, man.
Talk about how I think my drop or my interest in reading books themselves spurred from having to read books in high school. And I'm not like the books that were chosen, some of them were great, some of them were bad, it was like a hit or miss.
Yeah.
And thinking back, like I understand that my high school in Cincinnati, Wyoming high school, not the state, wanted all the students to have a well-rounded understanding of literature out there. But the fact that they would make us read word for word and create things, or at least have us look at things that sometimes weren't there. And I almost wanted to like pull my hair out and be like, well, why don't you ask Edgar Allan Poe now? Or why don't you ask Chinua Achebe from Things Fall Apart? Like I don't know, I can't interpret it. And sometimes I wonder on the side of authors, do they really put work out there for readers to just pick apart and
or
hit it
like
over
enjoy,
and over?
right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Well, Brooklyn, what do you think? I mean, you're right. I mean, I know you predominantly do not. Do you write any fiction, Brooklyn, or no?
I did I haven't in many years. I feel like I did a lot during my undergrad.
Okay.
And then I kind of like started leaning towards nonfiction. But I agree with, I just remember in my like honors English class in high school, having to read, like The Great Gatsby, Of Mice and Men, and us being forced to use sticky notes and annotate the book, and mine just being so thick because I was just trying to get a grade. And I was writing like LOL. Blue eyes, question mark. Just trying to write anything down so that my teacher could see that I was engaging with the book when I wasn't really engaging with the book at all.
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, no, 100%. I relate to you on that because I really genuinely did not. Actually, when I was a child, I wrote a lot, and I actually, like when I was a kid, one of my dream jobs was to be an author, and I always, I've always enjoyed. I mean, everybody here has always enjoyed writing, right? But I never. Oh, really?
Oh.
Yo, you just interrupted my whole bit. Oh, I was so sure of it. You don't like it? You don't like writing?
No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I like writing. I don't think I was the greatest writer, only because in high school they were like, the professors, teachers were like, yeah, you just didn't understand this book, the way that you wrote it. So I'm like, I'm not a good writer. I always thought that.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the problem. But yeah, so like I never enjoyed reading for school, like ever, until I had a teacher that like opened it up a little bit, and it wasn't so like, I don't even know the word to use to describe it. I guess like so disciplined about this is what they need. No, so like curriculum based, you know what I mean? That's kind of absurd to me. But I don't know, Brooklyn, when you're writing, are you like dropping little bombs in there to people to pick up, or is it just sort of, like what's your process look like?
Yeah, so I was when Paige brought up this topic, that was like one of the first things I started thinking of was that in high school, I was really annoyed when teachers were like, oh, there's a blue door.
Right.
What do you think that means?
Right.
But now that I write nonfiction and I write very like segmented essays where I go into like different settings and different topics and ask different questions, and they're all connecting in a way, and I need the reader to see that connection.
Yeah.
So I'm like dropping things in there that I'm like, I hope they get this. So you would have to like read this really closely to fully get it.
And if somebody missed it though, I mean, you know, would they still be able to sort of follow along, or do you feel like that stuff is really as sort of instrumental as these teachers make it out to be?
I would say, yeah, I think that you'd definitely be able to get it and you might enjoy it, but you won't really get the full depth of what I'm doing or what I'm trying to do, at least.
I get you. But it's also like, you know, if you're, I mean, I feel like part of it is, you know, like I read, what's the Charles Dickens book with the Tale of Two Cities? Like we read that sophomore year. And like we were like 15 reading that book, you know what I mean? Like we were children. And so, you know, and I was always okay at it because English was the only class I was ever good at. But like some of my friends, you know what I mean, were just suffering through that, you know?
Oh yeah.
People felt bad. Were you struggling with it? What did you read in high school, Paige, that you hated?
That I really hated?
Yeah.
A Room with a View. And I don't want to spoil it, but the room has a view. And not everything that I didn't, there were more things, if anything, that I liked than what I didn't like.
Right.
It was just the, you know, hounding of what is this mean?
I see.
That but that drove me nuts. But the good ones, certainly like The Great Gatsby, really like Things Fall Apart. I liked Sula, who by Toni Morrison, who is now deceased. I thought that I read a few playwrights that were good, like Wit and obviously Shakespeare as well. So majority of them were good, but it's hard to not hear a book when I'm talking to some younger people, like, what are you reading now? And they're like, well, this stupid book. And I'm like, it's not a stupid book. It's the content and the stuff that they're forcing you to take away from it that I think is kind of stupid.
Yeah, it kind of ruins the, I mean, Brooklyn, what about you? Did you hate anything you read like in high school that you were forced to read growing up?
I didn't really like Animal Farm. I don't know if you all had to read that.
We read No
That's a good one.
I wasn't super. Maybe again.
That's interesting. I feel like you would like George Orwell. I feel like he'd be up your alley.
Yeah, my perspective on reading though has definitely changed since high school. But also, I think another downfall of me being in high school and deciding, oh, I'm going to go to college for English, was that to be an English major, I immediately thought I had to read like every classic book ever written. And I spent like a whole summer just like diving into like Hemingway and Orwell and Morrison, and
it was
then
boring.
wasting my time because I could have been reading like modern day nonfiction and probably benefiting myself more than reading those.
That's interesting. I had a similar thing happen, but I didn't do it because I wanted to study English. I did it because I wanted people to think I was smart.
Me too. That was another reason too, that I could say like I've read all of Hemingway.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
I was trying to read Ulysses for a bit, and I didn't get too far in on that because I am, contrary to popular belief, I'm very, very dumb. I'm extremely stupid.
You always say that, but I don't. I think you're just saying that so that we think that, so everything you say sounds smart.
Yeah, or we take pity on you, Jonah. You have no pity for me because I know you're intelligent. And I know that you have a very vast repertoire.
Is that why the in the last email chain in the management handle, I just sent a picture of a seal floating in water? Did you see that?
That was really cute. Hey,
of the seal.
Pictures are louder than words sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, so what do you guys think it is? Because I feel this. I feel like this idea of like reading to have to read. Like I think we all agree ruins the experience of it. But I even feel that way. Like when I'm taking like a film history course right now, and I have to watch certain movies for it, and I'm like, I don't even want to watch it. But if I wasn't in the course, I would totally want to watch it. What is it about like when it's mandatory that ruins it? You guys have a theory? I don't know.
because it's not a personal investment, or you don't feel like it's an investment.
Right.
I mean, there is an end goal of, you read this, you get an A in this class, and then you can graduate, whether it be in high school or in college or some higher ed, right?
Yeah.
But it's because it is forced upon you that there's just that resistance. And it's kind of like nice to be like, oh, I'm not going to do this. And there's the fact that other people probably feel that same way.
Right.
Where else would there be like Spark Notes or Cliff Notes, or the fact that there are books to movies that people just read? I mean, it's so much easier and more enjoyable to watch a movie sometimes than having to read a book for some. And I'm sorry for saying that.
Brooklyn would disagree.
What?
I said you would disagree, wouldn't you?
What, that watching a movie is more enjoyable?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would disagree.
But not for everything. Some things, though.
Yeah.
I agree. Paige.
Yeah, for some things, I agree with. For some things, I think that like the having to read a book, you're like engaging with it for the wrong reason a lot of the time.
How so?
Like in your class, I guess, at least for me, maybe this isn't for everyone, at least for me, when I have to read a book for a class, especially in like a grad program class, I'm like, what am I going to say about it in class? Yeah. And so I'm just like reading until I find something I'm going to talk about, instead of just like engaging with it in a way I would right now, just reading for fun.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. And I especially, I feel like the desire to sort of flaunt your intellectual superiority fades away as you get older. Because I'm so old. But like I super felt that, like coming in my freshman year of college. I don't know about you guys, where I was like, oh god, I don't, maybe it's something to going to art school, and everybody has this opinion on what art school is, but like there is this need to, you read a book and I'm like not even thinking about what I'm reading, I'm thinking about how I'm gonna flaunt tomorrow. But maybe that's a Jonah thing. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Jonah thing, who knows. But we got to move on to the next subject, which is okay, because this is a banger subject that I personally love so much. Brooklyn, talk to us. What do you want to? I know you want to rant. Get it out. Let's open this up. Let's unpack this.
Well, I really want to talk about how nonfiction is super misunderstood and underrated. It's when people hear nonfiction a lot of the time, probably not writers, but maybe people that don't read a lot, or people that don't engage with a lot of different kinds of books and only read fiction, for example. When you think nonfiction, you're like, oh, I have to read an autobiography, or and that just makes me so upset as a nonfiction writer, because nonfiction can be so many things. Like, as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how, like, there's books by Roxane Gay that are called Bad Feminist, and it's a collection of essays about how she's a bad feminist because she likes rap music. And then there's other books like Bluette by Maggie Nelson, that's like a whole book of a lyrical essay where she just talks about like her obsession with the color blue.
Right.
It really can be anything, and I don't think people fully understand that.
I totally agree with you. For a while, I was considering doing like a double major in like the creative nonfiction thing, because I love essays. I wouldn't say as much as you, but I like them a lot. But yeah, there's totally a disconnect. You tell people like what you used to like, I remember when I was like a kid and I would see like you have to read a nonfiction book. It was like, okay, yeah, you either write a biography or you read like a science book, and those are lame typically,
Yeah.
I completely agree. Paige, what do you think about this?
Well, I wanted to ask a question. So Brooklyn, you're saying that nonfiction can be anything, but it's not, except fiction, I guess, then.
Yeah, but I was going to talk about a little bit about how, like, I would make a very bold claim every time and say that I think nonfiction is tops, and just like tops fiction and poetry. But which is a bold claim, I know. But also nonfiction, because it can be so experimental, especially now, it kind of blurs the line sometimes into fiction, which is cool, because it's like okay to do that.
Well, and here's what's interesting though. So I mean, Brooklyn, we've talked about, my favorite writer ever is David Foster Wallace, and a lot of people come at his work because he did a lot of his essays were done for like Rolling Stone or something. They were a little bit more, they were done for a publication. but they weren't necessarily written journalistically,
Mhm.
but a lot of people would be like, well, how much of this is embellishment because of sort of the way he
Yeah.
writes? David Foster Wallace's whole thing is like the sentence that's like a page and a half long, and so there's which is also my thing because I totally stole that. But he loves like embellishment, and if you're writing and it's being published, right? Like, is that an issue if it starts to fade into fiction? In Brooklyn, you don't say it is an issue.
I wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
A lot of right now too, a lot of times when you submit to magazines online that you want your work to be published in, they have a section called trans genre. So you can submit in like if you think yours is blurring the line too much between nonfiction and fiction, a lot of times they have that.
That's interesting.
Section.
I had no idea.
But yeah, I do. My whole thing, my favorite thing that people have ever said about nonfiction is it's based on your truth. So if it's true to you, then it's true. That's nonfiction.
That's what I appreciate about it. Yeah.
I fully agree with that. As I'm going to mention about autobiographies is that truth is so gray. Just because it's true to you doesn't mean that it necessarily was happening. And we've seen in psychology too that if you get enough people to say this is, the longer stick, or this is not happening, or I remember the event this way, the person is going to start thinking that it is that way, I guess.
Right.
And so, sorry, there's a fire.
Oh, you're good. Don't worry about it.
Coming by.
Don't worry about it.
And I just wonder about, autobiographies, how, can they be nonfiction? How do you know what they're saying is true? Fact check me. We need Brooklyn. We need you to come here and fact check our feelings and our life events and our LinkedIn's.
That's interesting because I feel like that conversation comes up anytime there's like a new, biography or memoir or whatever it is, right? And there's like, oh, well, they revealed this whole thing. It's like, to what extent is that, what is truth, right? There's the lowercase t truth and there's capital T truth.
Capital T truth,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I
that was also stolen from David Foster Wallace. Boom. But yeah, I think that's like a really, really interesting thing. But going back to David Foster Wallace, because I never get to talk about him with people. One of my favorite quotes of his is, people would ask him, why he wanted to write. And he would say, I don't want to write things that take you out of reality, right? He wants to write about what reality is because it's this thing that hasn't been cracked open. For me, like, nonfiction is so much rewarding to read typically. And I think coming at it is like somebody that, works, wants to like make money from making works of fiction, like in movies, right? For me, nothing, does truth, right? Whatever that is, the way that writing does, right? Like the ability to go into a single moment and open that up for pages and pages and pages is something that no other medium can do. And people need to get more of it. That's what I say.
Yeah, I'm all about the, same with me. I just feel like after I finish a book of like a collection of essays, I feel so much better than after I finish a fiction book.
Yes.
Even though like I enjoy them and I love I love, honestly, I'll read whatever, honestly, that you toss at me. But I was also gonna say, as like a person that just loves reading about mundane things.
Yes,
that's why. Yeah, that's why I like nonfiction so much. And what I try to do in my own work is like write about the mundane and make it interesting. It's just so fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because it's so much harder. But I also think that the actions and the behaviors that we do every day that we don't pay attention to, like that's the interesting stuff, because why don't we question it? You know what I mean? It's like, why is that? People say, well, that's just the way it is. Well, why do we or don't we hold the door open for the person behind us? What does that say about us? You could write about that. You can make that, a scene in a fiction book, but that could be 100 pages if you wanted it to be, if you're writing in like a creative nonfiction space. It's so interesting. It's such an interesting medium.
Sounds like very much like psychology or like sociology, and just about maybe collectivism versus individualism kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it definitely comes back to a lot of that stuff. Paige, do you read a lot of nonfiction?
I do. I will say that as a reporter, I actually, when you were mentioning about what books, I wish that the news sometimes would be in a book that would update every day, kind of like I guess like a Kindle that would just be in a flippable book, and I actually have a newspaper right here, which
Look
is
at
kind
you.
of like my book, and this is from yesterday, so it's old news, not like super, old news is not relevant anymore. But I do enjoy reading newspapers, and I think it's the hand copiness of it, and also
Yeah,
that
yeah,
it's a lot more digestible sometimes than a book,
totally.
in the sense that
Yeah.
there's always a start and a finish. I mean, I take that back. There's not always a start and a finish, but it's could be considered like a novel, because you have part one of the car robbery, and then you have
Mhm.
part two, which is the people got convicted, and part three is like, how are these people living without their
Right. Yeah,
car?
it's a little more
It's,
structured.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's why I read the news probably much less than I should, considering the fact that I
Yeah.
work at a
Me
newspaper.
too.
You as well,
Me
Brooklyn?
too.
So here are the truths. I don't enjoy writing, and Jonah and Brooklyn don't read the news enough.
We are, this is the expose. We're in the expose moment of the memoir right now. This is crazy.
Do Travis and Curtis listen to this podcast?
They definitely listen to this podcast, and yes, we are applying for rehiring very, very soon. So
soon.
Travis and Curtis, don't
Please
hold
hire
this
me.
against us. Please hire us.
I promise I'll like writing. No, I do. I say that with a grain of salt that I don't like it.
Yeah, I read the Chronicle. All right. What more do you want from me? I read the Chronicle and
Do you
NPR
though?
and NPR. I read the Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
What?
No, there's a lot of sitting stories that editor one sometimes.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm a very busy guy. I try my best. That's all I can do. What more? I've been doing this thing recently where I've been talking like a New Yorker, because New Yorkers are always repeating questions and things they say. My dad does this. He'll say, "Hey, Jonah, you ready to eat dinner?" I'll say, "Yeah, Jonah, I'm ready to eat dinner." He'll go, "You're ready?" I'll say, "Yeah, Dad, I'm ready." He'll say, "You're ready for dinner?" I'll say, "Yes, Dad, I'm ready for dinner." Anyways, that's a tangent, guys. We're at time. Do you see how fast it goes?
It was really fast.
I know, man.
It was really fun.
I know, man. I'm telling you, seriously. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today. I'm happy we got to end the episode with an anecdote about my father.
I would love to meet him and ask him how he's doing, and him tell me multiple times, "I'm doing well." So
He
you're doing
would.
well?
You need to understand he
I'm
would.
doing well.
That's so Mark, dude. That's so Mark. All right. Well, thank you guys, and thank you everybody for watching and listening. I really appreciate it.